Let's bring in Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House and 2012 presidential candidate. Great to see you in person, Speaker.
It's wonderful to have you down here.
I mean, I wish it was better circumstances in the sense that we're talking about this ever-increasing global jihad problem. We have North Korea testing a hydrogen bomb yesterday. Now we have yet another terrorist attack in Paris. And we have a year left of the Obama administration who doesn't seem to want to tackle this issue. So where does that put us? Well,
I mean, I think when you bring in North Korea, you have... I'm writing a piece right now about the 1930s and the degree to which this is beginning to feel like the 1930s, where you had Mussolini and Hitler and Stalin and Franco and the Imperial Japanese. And you have the Chinese building airfields in the South China Sea. You have North Korea setting off either a hydrogen or a big atomic weapon. You have Iran clearly violating everything. You have a resurgence of the Taliban in Afghanistan. You have ISIS. You have killings all over the place. You have the Russians resurgent. This feels a lot like the 1930s did, in that all of the forces that want to disintegrate civilization are gaining momentum.
But why?
I think largely because our elite, and particularly our president, but our elite in general, the State Department, refuse to recognize how dangerous the world is. That they're living they talked about this, the Arab Spring. Well, the Arab Spring is a nightmare. It turns out that when you try to release the forces of a place like Libya, a lot of those forces are pretty bad.
So is it because some of these rogue nations look at an administration that they think won't do anything to stop them? Is that part of it?
That's part of it. I mean, a lot of this, you'd have a lot of this trouble under any circumstance, because there's now a huge wave of younger people who are being recruited on the internet. I've been arguing, and you were very kind talking about your dad and my new novel, that if you look at it, this is a worldwide epidemic, and you ought to think of it in epidemiology terms. It's not ISIS, it's not Al-Qaeda, it's not Al-Shabaab, it's not Boko Haram. It is a worldwide movement of people, largely inspired by religion, who want to destroy our civilization. Now, we can't even talk about that without being politically incorrect.
Right.
Then you have the Russians. Putin is taking advantage of Obama's weaknesses. The Chinese are pushing us. The North Koreans are just nuts. I mean, the Chinese don't understand North Korea. The South Koreans don't understand North Korea. Nobody understands this very strange country.
Well, that's what makes them even more possibly dangerous.
I think that's right.
Let's move on to who you think might be the best candidate on the GOP side or the Democratic side to take on this global jihad and the rest of the problems. And I know that Time Magazine has this new cover story about Donald Trump. They say, look, the American people are upset about issues like illegal immigration and the economy, and that's why they like him. But can he actually bring out the voters, and what do you think?
Well, I just spent part of Christmas reading The Art of the Deal, his first book, and I recommend it to everybody who wants to understand him. This is a very practical guy who actually understands what he doesn't know and is very good at hiring people who are smart. His whole career was that way.
What do you mean he understands what he doesn't know?
Well, for example, when he took over the Woolman ice rink in New York, he knew he didn't know how to fix an ice rink.
I see.
And there's a great section of the book where he says, I thought to myself, who builds ice rinks? And I thought, Canadians. And so he called the #1 Canadian ice rink company. They came down. They fixed in 3 months what the city of New York couldn't fix in 6 years.
So you think that he could apply that same technique to running the country?
I think, first of all, he could run the country. I think he is probably the most helped by what's happening internationally, because it makes the average American want strength. And whether you like or dislike Trump, he clearly is a towering figure of strength.
Okay. What do you make of this whole phenomenon? Because that's what you call him in this election cycle. I mean, you were just running for president just a couple of years ago, and you have been quoted as saying, I would be clueless as to what strategy I should use if you were still in this race.
I am clueless. I mean, for example, I would never offer advice to Trump about what he ought to do, because he is operating out of a pure instinct, seasoned by a lifetime. Remember, he had his first Time Magazine cover in 1989. He had his first bestseller in 1987. I mean, he has been playing this game longer than anybody else in the field, except maybe Hillary. And he's pretty darn good at it. I mean, again, we're a long way from having picked a nominee, but if you were to say today, who has the momentum, who has the excitement, who has the enthusiasm, he's doing stuff I wouldn't have thought. If you had said to me back in January, we'd be having this conversation, I would have thought you were crazy.
All right. Well, neither of us are.
That's right.
But it's great to see you on this day, and we will see what happens in Iowa and New Hampshire and moving forward.
I look forward to it.
Mr. Speaker, great to see you.
Great to see you.
Thanks.